Our movie begins. Mitch advises his fellow spring breakers to keep their phones in a bag at a beach party in order to prevent having their images or videos shared online. Vance and Gilbert discover a large ball that is coated in a sticky material and decides to set it down on the beach. The party then resumes, and when Gilbert is dozing, Vance paints a degrading sign on his cheek. The following morning, Mitch and Kaylee awaken at the lifeguard station. Inside a vehicle, Shanda and her lover Jonah awaken simultaneously. Then Vance and Ronnie get into the rear of the car, where they soon start to wake up as well. Following that, Shanda calls Marcia several times while she is asleep to inform her that she is not wearing a bikini top. Marcia, though, doesn't seem to mind her and begins to vomit. On the other hand, before it is sucked beneath, Kaylee notices a bird stranded in the sand. She attempts to stop Marcia from treading on the sand right away, but it's too late. When Marcia feels the sand with her hands, she yells and cries out that she is trapped. Vance tries to assist Marcia as she sinks and leaps on the beach after realizing something is amiss, but he only collapses to the ground. All of their buddies begin to fear at the same time as Vance cries in pain. Then Jonah attempts to assist his friend, but Shanda prevents him and tells him to start the car. Mitch throws a rescue buoy at Vance in the meanwhile, but the sand has already begun to eat away at his face. Vance's pals struggle to make sense of what had transpired as they can only watch in terror as he disappears into the sand. Sadly, despite having several hypotheses, they are unable to contact for assistance because their phones are in the trunk. In order to escape, they try to come up with a strategy that involves Jonah driving the automobile to the lifeguard station, but when they go to start the car, they find that the battery is dead. Kaylee raises her hand a few inches above the sand in an effort to better grasp their position and notices what appears to thread reaching for her. Gilbert, meantime, wakes up trapped in a trash can and begs for assistance. Gilbert, who is insane, tries to free himself, but his pals tell him that Vance and Marcia have died and that there is something in the sand. Gilbert, however, finds it difficult to be confined to a garbage can, but he has no choice but to listen to Mitch as he orders him to wait. They are all oblivious that whatever is lurking in the sand is attempting to get into the car until Shanda sees Jonah staring at Kaylee and orders him to let her go. Then, after a few hours, the gang begins to lose faith. As she looks about the hut for anything that could be of assistance, Kaylee discovers some matches. Later, when Kaylee inquires about what transpired the previous evening, Mitch replies that they simply had a few drinks and spoke. Kaylee is referring to the sand, not the two of them, but Mitch is unable to respond to her query. Then Mitch discovers some sunscreen, which Kaylee offers to their pals right away. They discover that all of their classmates have vanished when Kaylee tells them about what happened the previous night. Gilbert becomes agitated over this and attempts to free himself once more, but Jonah advises him to pause and take a deep breath. Jonah throws Gilbert some sunscreen to cope with the heat, but he complains that he is burning. Kaylee observes that the huge ball from the previous evening is cracked as if it had hatched in the meanwhile. They all begin to believe that it is an egg and that whatever sprang from it is now buried beneath the sand. The monster merely stays concealed while it feeds when Kaylee drops food onto the beach to gauge its size. Gilbert, on the other hand, sees a bird being buried in the sand and regrets going to that beach. Kaylee tells Mitch to toss the food to the opposite side of the beach a few seconds later, but nothing occurs. They thus reason that the creature cannot reach that distance and believe they now have a chance to flee. Shanda, however, claims that it is too risky and prefers to just wait in the car for assistance. Nevertheless, Ronnie reminds out that no one will come for them because it is spring vacation. Ronnie informs them that nobody has visited that beach for hours at the same time, causing Shanda to understand she is correct. Jonah, on the other hand, won't simply sit there and builds a bridge out of two surfboards to get to the table Marcia was sleeping on. Jonah then informs Kaylee that they should speak. Jonah believes Kaylee had a good time with Mitch despite the fact that Kaylee is furious over him being with Shanda. That leads to an altercation between Jonah and Mitch, but Mitch ultimately decides to leave. A few seconds later, Jonah arrives at the table, but his board changes and nearly causes him to fall. He continues to attempt to stand on the surfboard while holding onto the table, but the beast slices his abdomen. Jonah then climbs onto the table and attempts to treat his injuries, nearly collapsing. Jonah then drops a banana and picks it up fast, which causes him to conclude the monster won't go near the bonfire's ashes. Jonah treads on the ashes as a result and deduces that the enigmatic creature despises fire. Jonah's injuries start to sadly get worse. Then, after returning to the table and passing drinks to his buddies, he vomits again as Kaylee tells him to check the bag. The situation worsens as Mitch misses the Coke can and nearly destroys the railing. Additionally, blood appears to be attempting to escape from Jonah's wounds as it bursts out of them. Jonah then lies down on the table to relax as the monster pushes the surfboards out of the way. spray. When the creature flattens the car's tire at the same moment, Shanda and Ronnie are forced to take action. Shanda holds Ronnie's hands as she stands on the bumper and helps her try to unlock the trunk with the keys. Kaylee checks on Gilbert and Jonah, both of whom are having health issues. Finally, Ronnie unlocks the trunk to get their phones but ultimately trips. Ronnie won't have someplace to rest her feet because the trunk swings extremely wide when it is opened. She is unable to lean back at the same moment due to the risk of falling. Shanda forces Ronnie to hang onto a towel as she attempts to unlock the trunk once more, but she is unsuccessful. Ronnie is given the rescue hook by Mitch and Kaylee in the meanwhile, but she falls again as a passing car honks, and her fingers are crushed beneath the trunk. Alex, the patrolman operating the truck, however, notices Haley and her friends and informs them that the beach is closed. Haley advises him to ask for assistance since there is a deadly living thing in the sand. Gilbert, who is bleeding from the garbage container, orders Alex to contact the National Guard at the same moment. They are shocked that nothing is occurring as Alex stepped out of the patrol car thinking they are merely high. Then, Alex goes up to Gilbert and attempts to assist him, but the large man is simply too heavy. Alex then checks on Ronnie and Shanda, but he makes no genuine attempt to assist them. While the patrolman doesn't believe them when they claim that the sand killed two of their pals, Mitch believes Alex is safe because of his shoes. Now enraged, Alex commands Mitch and Kaylee to leave the hut, but when they object, the patrolman pulls out his pepper spray. But as soon as Alex tries to pick up his dropped keys, he becomes enmeshed in the sand. When Alex uses the pepper spray to get away, his arm is amputated. Unfortunately, the beast in the sand quickly devours Alex and drags him under, but Kaylee is able to collect his pepper spray. Out of choices, Mitch decides to wrap his feet with towels that he will soak in pepper spray before rushing to the car while wearing his slippers. When Mitch tries to get the second towel from Shanda, he, unfortunately, slips from the hut, and the thing in the sand promptly devours his corpse. The others are crying in the background while they do little to help Mitch. Kaylee then tells Shanda to climb onto the car's bonnet after noticing the railing that had fallen onto the sand. Before throwing Shanda the towels, Kaylee hands her another handrail and orders her to grab it. Without wasting any time, Kaylee charges the car and punches Shanda for having with Jonah. Jonah apologizes for his errors, but Shanda doesn't push back and instead just listens. Later, Kaylee instructs Gilbert to face them and turn around so he can observe what is going on. After assisting Ronnie to release her fingers, Kaylee and Shanda promptly treat to her injuries. In contrast, Gilbert eventually manages to turn around despite his discomfort, but regrettably, he doesn't realize that the thing in the sand is drawn to him due to his blood. When the girls try to gather their thoughts, Shanda tells Kaylee that she is ideal for Jonah and expresses her guilt about damaging their relationship. But since they are short on time, Kaylee informs Shanda about her scheme to reach the fire pit, rescue Jonah, and construct a bridge leading to the patrol car. Shanda claims that nothing occurred between her and Jonah while Kaylee and Shanda construct a bridge from the railings. When Shanda eventually gets through to Jonah, she begs Kaylee to hurry over there, but Kaylee lets Ronnie go ahead of her. Ronnie warns her that she is bleeding excessively, so Kaylee ends up crossing the bridge ahead of her. Gilbert notices that he is bleeding from a stomach wound in the meanwhile. Kaylee moves cautiously but steadily across the bridge until she encounters Jonah, who begs her not to leave him. Ronnie, on the other side, begins to cross as well but is deterred by her blood trickling. As soon as Kaylee realizes Ronnie is about to fall, she puts the pepper spray on the sand to prevent her buddy from landing there. Ronnie first believes she is fine, but Kaylee is unable to help her as she is soon sucked under the sand. Shanda, who is desperate to get out, adopts Mitch's strategy and wraps a towel in a sack around her feet. The thing in the sand is currently attempting to enter the trash can. Then Shanda runs to the police car and jumps on the hood, delighting everyone. Unfortunately, the creature assaults Gilbert from within the trash can and drags him into the sand, displaying its new huge tentacles. Shanda loses her footing and passes out on the hood as the beast attempts to flip the vehicle. Shanda eventually regains consciousness that evening and assures Kaylee she's okay. The raft then blows up on the sand and she drops it there after she finds it on the car's roof. After that, Shanda and Kaylee assist Jonah in getting across the raft and the bonfire ashes till he enters the vehicle. Kaylee, unfortunately, falls into the raft as a result of the rapid shaking of the entire region. When a luminous, enormous tentacle emerges from the sand to try to strike Kaylee, the latter immediately climbs onto the automobile. She reaches for the gas can there, but the tentacle yanks it from her grasp. But Kaylee persists and grabs the second one, immediately emptying its contents into the sand. Without waiting, Kaylee quickly sets the tentacle on fire with the matches she has in her pocket and enters the car. However, the thing is tenacious and keeps attempting to approach them. When the monster eventually departs, Kaylee and Shanda are shocked to learn that Jonah has passed away. The following day, a man discovers Kaylee and Shanda inside the car and inquires as to their well-being. The girls, however, decide to leave because the thing has already vanished. The lifeguard hut and the patrol car, however, were left with a crater, and it wasn't long before it became clear that the creature was actually a massive jellyfish that was now moving toward another beach. This is how our movie ends. Tell us in the comments how you felt about this movie recap. See you in the following movie recap.